There you are. Peace, power, and prosperity to my beautiful family. As the sun sets, I am giving you part 2 of Atlantis and the origins of the white race. I want to thank those who tuned in for part 1. For those who watched in its entirety, obviously you know that everything was done out of love. Actual factuals, you were able to research. You will be able to understand more about who you are. And part 2, chapter 2, is going to jumpstart right into that. So I want to thank you once again for tuning into part 1, watching part 1 of Atlantis and the origins of the white race. I'm going to jumpstart in part 2. Now, for those who want a little bit of recap, part 1 was about this. I gave you a video. There was a white man talking to an Asian man who was so glad that Trump, or the possibilities at that time of the video, that Trump was going to be elected. Because if Trump was going to be elected, it would slow down the disposition, his words, of the white race. There has always been talk that the white race is disintegrating, that they are evaporating, that the white race will no longer be existing soon. So what I did in part 1, I showed you that video, then I broke down the history of the white race, including the Neanderthals, the Cro-Magnons, the Organic man, so forth and so on. So if you haven't watched part 1, watch part 1 to understand what I'm saying. We've seen the connection between Atlantis. We've even seen the connection between slavery, just a little bit. I'm going to continue where part 1 left off. I want to thank you once again for rocking and watching part 1, Atlantis and the Origins of the White Race. Part 2 is going to jumpstart right about now. Now listen, for those who watched part 1, I was trying to break down, I was paraphrasing, but I'm going to give you the actual quote on part 2. I was paraphrasing a quote that was by Adolf Hitler. Us in the United States, in the USA, in America, only know so much about Hitler unless you have done your due diligence studies on Hitler. What we were taught about Hitler was that he was a wicked man who destroyed a lot of people, and at the end, he killed himself and got what was coming to him. Once you do your research, and it has to be an esoteric, which means a spiritual hidden research, to understand that not only did Hitler did not lose the war, he just lost the battle. But there was so much spiritual esotericness to him that I think what we're about to see real soon is a ha 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 from Hitler, even beyond the grave. So I want to read this quote that Hitler said. I was paraphrasing it in the last one, but I want to give you the whole quote of what Hitler said about his battle with the Jews, who he called an alien race, people who are not from this planet. He says, if I win the war, this is a quote by Hitler, Adolf Hitler. If I win the war, I will have given a mortal blow to the Jew. If I lose the war, their triumph will only be for a brief time. Hitler lost a battle, not a war. For those who watched part 1, I want to read this again, because then I'm going to pick up where part 1 left off. Hitler was once quoted as saying, if I lose the war, their triumph will only be for a brief time. Excuse me, let me read that again. If I win the war, I will have given a mortal blow to the Jew. If I lose the war, their triumph would only be for a brief time. Hitler lost a battle, not a war. Now let's go off where we picked up right here. Now I just want to sit back and recap so we can go on to part 2. And I thank you guys for your patience. We're going to start off right about... Dun, 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 dun. Let's see here. Here we go. We're going to start back up right here. Thank you for your patience. With the disappearance of Atlantis, those Nordic Atlanteans saved from the flood went along the coast of Africa and reached the Persian Gulf, founding the Sumerian-Akkadian civilization there. Their lino writing repeats the Atlantic solar ideograms. And I'm going to read that again. With the disappearance of Atlantis, yes, Atlantis was a real place. Some of the stuff you're about to hear coming up is you're going to maybe hopefully understand the reason why they didn't tell you the truth, the full truth about Atlantis. With the disappearance of Atlantis, those Nordic Atlanteans, Nordic, for those who understand the Norse mythology, Odin and them, we're giving you the backdrop of what the white race truly comes from. Because if you watch part 1, I told you that the term white race is only a social construct, and then I gave you the definition of what social construct meant. So I want to fast forward and once again keep on going with part 2, because you should have watched part 1 to now get ready for part 2. So let's go for my part 2ers. With the disappearance of Atlantis, those Nordic Atlanteans saved from the flood went along the coast of Africa and reached the Persian Gulf, founding the Sumerian-Akkadian civilization there. Their lino writing repeats the Atlantic solar ideograms. That's ideograms. There, the Jews stole Genesis, the Bible story of Genesis. Their immigrations reached to China, where they would have met the remnants of a language of Indo-Germanic type of the Kentum, that's spelled Kentum, not Centum, group. The author Worth, and for my part 1s, for my people who watch part 1, I kept on saying Worth, W-I-R-T-H. He is an author, a German author named Hermann Worth, W-I-R-T-H. So for now, instead of saying Worth, I'm just going to say Herman. PDF some of his work, and if I got enough time before the sun completely sets, I'll give you Herman some of his PDFs, or at least one of his PDFs. So once again, Herman states the legendary expansion reached Australia because they founded the Maori, M-A-U-R-I, or Mu-Ur, which equals Atlantis, even today from the Mongolian and Negro types. The boats of the flood ran aground on the tops of the highest mountains of the earth. One was in the Caucasus on Mount Ararat, spelled A-R-A-R-A-T, with a runic R-U-N-I-C name, the summit of the Aryans. So, for the ones who are familiar with the Old Testament story and Noah, this is what happened before they gave you the Noah story. The people of Atlantis now becoming the people of the Nordic Atlantic, now leaving the flood, Noah and them, going on spaceships and going to the highest mountains to reside. One of those mountains were the Caucasus Mountains. Let's keep on going. The first cycle of North Atlantic civilization included the Stone Age. The second cycle, the Bronze Age, a Nordic Atlantic wave reached Ireland, Frisia, and that's spelled F-R-I-S-I-A, and Saxony, S-A-X-O-N-Y. The islands of Ireland and Britain were then connected to the European continent, so the Germans were not different from the Tuthayas, and that's spelled T-U-A-T-H-A-S, the Tuthayas, Danan, and that's D-A-N-N-A-N. You should be researching this. Or those Nordic Atlanteans settled along the North Sea, who mixed there with Aborigines coming from Asia with Phino-Asiatics, according to Herman. Now, like I said in part 1, when the gods, we had the gods, so-called gods here, everything was about pure blood. But remember the story of the gods sleeping with the daughters of men. So once again, that's mixing of blood. Then you go along the time civilization and you have more mixing of the blood and more mixing of the blood. But it says here, the islands of Ireland and Britain were then connected to the European continent. So the Germans were not different from, and this is the name of the people, Tuathas, and that's spelled T-U-A-T-H-A-S, D-D-E, or Day, D-E, Danan. That's D-A-N-N-A-N, or also known as those Nordic Atlanteans. We're still talking about Atlantis, the lost city that really lost. They settled along the North Sea, who mixed there with the Aborigines coming from Asia, with Fino, that's spelled Finno, Asiatics, according to Herman. So let us sum it up, says the author. Let us sum up it all. When Hyperborea, now some of you who like, what is Hyperborea? This is why you have to stop worrying about TV, entertainment, sports. I'm not knocking all that. But some of you who watch entertainment, sports, news, propaganda, you also want to know about your spirituality, do you not? Well, you cannot truly know who you are spiritually unless you let some of that go. Moderation at best. Because you have heard stories, little Disney stories, little stories about Atlantis, but based on my research and other people's research, H.P. Belansky, Rudolf Steiner, Gerald Massey, Atlantis was an underwater civilization, but much more than that. These people still had a racial tone about them. Like I told you in part 1, the so-called white race in Atlantis was still colonizers and civilizers. There was still a black race in Atlantis that were still slaves through the colonizers. If you never heard of Hyperborea, Hyperborea is either another name for Lemuria or a connection with Lemuria. 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 If you never heard of Lemuria, please do your research. If you never had heard of Hyperborea, do your research, but do extensive research. So let's go on. When Hyperborea was destroyed, some of its inhabitants went down to Atlantis, constituting what Herman calls the Nordic Atlanteans. When Atlantis sank, they turned to go north. These are the Tuatha De Danann, or the name I just said to you earlier, according to Herman, from whom the Germans descend. So now for the Germans who are watching, you have a history story. White people, you have a history story that goes beyond what they can tell you in your history books. Let's read that part again, because we're about to step into the magic world. Let me say that part again, because now we're about to step into some magic. When Hyperborea, and I encourage you who never heard of Hyperborea to either Google Hyperborea, but I would do Hyperborea PDF. That way, if you PDF it, you're going to get some ancient knowledge about what Hyperborea is. Hyperborea, once again, is spelled Hyperborea. Once again, when Hyperborea was destroyed, some of its inhabitants went down to Atlantis, constituting what Herman calls the Nordic Atlanteans. When Atlantis sank, they turned to go north. These are the Tuatha De Danann, according to Herman, from whom the Germans descend. Let's keep on reading. For Herman, the eddies and runes are revealed during the Bronze Age, some 16,000 BC. They are the ultimate form of magic writing derived from the series of sacred solar ideograms. Some of us have, how many of you have heard of the runes? R-U-N-E-S. And I do my research, so don't worry. We're going to break down what the runes are. And the eddies. E-D, not edibles. But no, the eddies. E-D-D-A-S. And for those who have been watching me for years, you should know that when I am giving you a presentation, whether it's a spiritual one or whether it's all spiritual, but whether it's a esoteric or esoteric, you should always have your pen and pad. Because now, it don't matter what race you are watching this evening, you have some homework to do about yourself. Let's read that again. I'm going to run it back. When Hyperborea was destroyed, some of its inhabitants went down to Atlantis, constituting with what Herman With calls the Nordic Atlanteans. When Atlantis sank, they turned to go north. These are the Tuathas, Tuathas, Dedanann, according to Herman, from whom the Germans descend. For Herman, The Eddies, spelled Eddas, you should be writing that down now because I'm going to break it down what it is. And the ruins, Runes, are revealed during the Bronze Age, some 16,000 BC. What these are, they said, they are ultimate form of magic writing derived from the series of sacred solar ideograms. I'm going to stop there and say this. With entertainment, propaganda, celebrities, fame, sports, they have taken your spiritual and your physical attention away from the magic world. Yes, there were a world many times ago, and there still is actually, of gnomes, fairies, mermaids, dragons. We have fed so much of this material world to the people that the third eye. Christ said, let the one eye be single. The Bible said, I have come face to face with God. And it's the pineal. For many people, that third eye is closed, so you cannot have contact with mermaids, fairies, gnomes, dragons. Oh my. Some of you go to Disney if you want your magic. Some of you go to Disney if you want your magic. I'm not talking about whoop-de-woo magic. I'm talking about magic with a K. So I'm going to give you the definition, or I'm going to break down what the Eddies are, Eddas, and the ruins. You can thank me all you want to, and I love each and every one of you because you are my family, no matter what your race is. But if you don't have power of who you are, how can you expect to get the power that is coming from the divine Christ? So let's start with the runes. I'm going to take my phone off so you guys can see this too. And some of you are familiar with this. Runes, ruins. And Google used to have a little voice speaker for me today, but it's all good. Runes are a set of letters that were used by Germanic people, or Germans, just say Germans, German people to write their language before the Latin alphabet was adopted. Runes were used for communication and for magical purposes and are best known for their use by the Vikings. Can you guys see this? Can you guys see this? Can you guys see this? You see the alphabet? Yeah. Let's make sure we're back on here. All right? That's the ruins. Magical. Time for you to get back on your magic, right? Don't matter what race you are. Don't worry about me. I promise you. The magic that I know comes from every form of this planet and beyond. The inner, the outer, and far beyond. Even Pluto. Beyond Pluto. It's time for you to know your magic. And for the Nordic people who are awakening now, it's not about protecting your race alone because your blood is mixed with a lot of the other races now. It has come to know unity with all races and to work together for love. If you're not working together for love, you will be destroyed instantly. So this information that I'm giving you is for you to join the rest of the races of humankind, of Godkind, to make this place a better world while we are here on it. That was the ruins. Let's hear about the Eddies now. The poetic Eddies, as they are called, is the modern name for an untitled collection of Old Norse anonymous narrative poems and alliterative verse. The Eddies, Edda, are also known as a great-grandmother. You know how great-grandmother have stories. The Eddies are known as ancient poetries, mythologic poetries that tell the true story of the Norse mythology of the so-called white race and Nordic people. And what I have learned as a melanated man, as a man of Christ, that this war that keeps going on is really a war between two people, two groups. And I have no To a certain degree, I have no bet in this race. And the two groups are the Nordic people and the Jewish people, who Hitler called an alien race. I'm going to keep on. I'm going to go back. But once again, if you want this, I would encourage any of you out there to Google the Poetic Eddy. That's obviously poetic, Poetic. Eddy is EDDA. PDF that. If you really want to. Now, this is the original story of Norse, Norse mythology. This is original work here. So you tuning into the Cosmic Christ University is giving you original spiritual mythology of Norse or the Nordic people. It's called Poetic Eddy, EDDA. PDF it now. And then once you have found it, or if you have already heard of it, leave comments and let me know what you think. Or let's go back to the presentation in hand. Where we at? Let's go back to the presentation in hand. The first cycle of North Atlantic civilization included the Stone Age. The second cycle, the Bronze Age. A Nordic Atlantic wave reached Ireland, Frisia, and Saxonia. The islands of Ireland and Britain were then connected to the European continent. So the Germans were not different from the Teuthias de Dana, or those Nordic Atlanteans settled along the North Sea, who mixed there with the Aborigines coming from Asia with Pheno-Asiatics, according to Herman With. Let us sum it all up, the author says. When Hyperborea or Lemuria was destroyed, some of its inhabitants went down to Atlantis, constituting what Herman calls the Nordic Atlanteans. When Atlantis sank, they turned to go north. These are the Teuthias de Dana, according to Herman Wirth, from whom the Germans descend. For Wirth, the eddies and ruins are revealed during the Bronze Age, some 16,000 BC. They are the ultimate form of magic writing derived from the series of sacred solar ideograms. So Herman sees a direct relation between the ruins and the lineal writing of prehistory. In our conversation in his house, the author says, next to the border of Holland, Holland, he told me the ruins are only part of a very ancient sacred writing. Once again, Herman told him that the runes are only part of a very ancient sacred writing. Herman's main effort was to try to trace a line joining the primordial white race, pre-Nordic, with the Germanic peoples. All this by means of an investigation carried out with a scientific quote-unquote myth of the Kali Yuga. Oh, here we go. We're jumping shift again. Also applied in his search to discover the religion of the white Nordic people of anti-history. I'm going to read, you better believe I'm going to read that again. Herman Wirth, Wirth, says the eddies and the ruins are revealed during the Bronze Age, some 16,000 BC. They are the ultimate form of magic writing derived from the series of sacred solar ideograms. So Herman sees a direct relation between the ruins and the lineal writing of prehistory. The author says, in our conversations in his house next to the border of Highland, Herman told me the ruins are only part of a very ancient sacred writing. Herman's main effort was to try to trace a line joining the primordial white race, pre-Nordic, with the Germanic peoples. All this by means of an investigation carried out within the, and I quote, scientific, end quote, myth of the Kali Yuga, also applied in his search to discover the religion of the white Nordic people of anti-history. This is why I say if you do your research, and I'm going to speak briefly on this, if you do your research extensive enough, you're going to see that the white race and the Asian race have some type of primordial connection. And some of you know what I'm talking about, but I'm focused on this presentation right now. Another fable, a matter of superstition imposed in the age of Pisces. I want you to listen very closely to what he's saying now. Another fable, for those who know what a fable is, a matter of superstition imposed in the age of Pisces. Remember, we all just left the age of Pisces. We're now in the age of Aquarius. Let me read that again. Another fable, a matter of superstition imposed in the age of Pisces by the Semites, is monotheism. It appears as a supreme religious concept of humanity, and the first monotheistic in the world are said to be the Jews, and their inheritors, the Judeo-Christians, which is to say the dictatorship of one God, one for the entire universe. Why this should be superior is not clear to me, the author says. No doubt for this closed universe, for the circles of circles, for the Manavantara, spelled Manvantara, perhaps for this Kalpa, spelled Klpa, there might exist one Manu, a reoccurring root archetype, shaping, and I quote, in his image and likeness, simultaneously, all the planes of manifestation, of expiration. But if the simultaneous worlds are infinite, then the Manu and Aeons are infinite. Circles and circles. The gods, therefore, are infinite. Here in Gerada, Gerda, there is only the one, the terrible demiurge. Now, for those who didn't understand that, the author was sending a shout out to Orthodox religion, monotheism, and the Jews, and the demiurge that I told you about on part 1. You can rewind that back on your own time. Herman has also succumbed to the fiction and tried to prove the first monotheists were white men of North Atlantic type. Once again, let me read that again. Herman has also succumbed to the fiction and tried to prove the first monotheists were white men of North Atlantic type. The God was this or that, and a definite being without qualities, extra numerical, the one being. The Chronicle of Orotlinda, first released and translated by Herman, not suspecting it could be a falsified document, called the unique god Wralda, Wralda. The religion of the white man was different from Negro and Phino-Asiatic animism, without dogma, a direct let's read that again. The religion of the white man was different from Negro and Phino-Asiatic animism, without dogma, a direct revelation where woman played a predominant role, still seen in Pythia and Sibyl of the Greeks. If you never heard about the Sibyl books, I would encourage you to read about the Sibyl books. They were a bunch of magic books that were given to the Romans to help the Romans win the war, many wars. Once again, Sybil, those Sibyl books were given to the Romans by a witch that allowed the Romans to win many wars. Let's keep on going. With a curious legacy in the Mapuche, that's spelled Mapuche, Araucanos, and that's spelled Aurancanos, revelation was produced by observation and intuitive penetration of the laws of nature, according to Herman. When ice took possession of the world and winters lasted more than 6 months, the return of the sun was a benediction, a liberation. It meant the resurrection of life. Thus, the eternal return was born in the human mind, and the symbols expressing it in a revelatory synthesis. The cross within a circle. Return, resurrection, reincarnation occurring at the winter solstice, when light reaches its lowest point, its decadence. Another sign of its return, midnight, is high noon, and vice versa. Here, the Redeemer is crucified, the Son who dies and is reborn. The cross of the year within the circle. This is the solar Christianity. This is spelled with a K here. Christianity is spelled with a K here. This is the solar Christianity of Herman Wirth. Even today, we celebrate the birth of Christos, Kristos, at the winter solstice. For those religious people who did not know, the true story of Jesus Christ is an astrological one. For those who are in Orthodox or just regular followers of Jesus, if you did not know, the true story of Jesus is an astrological, cosmic one. Let's keep on going. Even today, we celebrate the birth of Christos at the winter solstice. The religion of some 16,000 years is expressed in the Siri Sacra, spelled Serie Sacra, corresponding to a spiritualization of nature. so as to discover, to feel beyond each natural phenomenon and within the drama of annual light. That, I quote, another thing is expressing itself, a nostalgia left behind and beyond a recurring archetype, a truth coming from beyond the stars, because beyond the sun is another sun, and the religious man of proto-history adapted the events of his life to a ritual with which he interpreted and served them. His own death must be life. Midnight must be his high noon. It was beautiful. Along with Chamberlain and Gorsleben, Herman argues that the true Christianity is Nordic, Aryan, polar. Once again, these are all Herman's thoughts based off his work, the author says. Herman argues that true Christianity, spelled with a K, is Nordic, Aryan, polar. Rosenberg also believes this. Jesus would have been born in Galilee, in the Nordic Atlantean group that arrived there after the appearance of Atlantis. Heavy. We only on 31 minutes. The sun's about to set, so if it sounds like I'm speeding, then I kind of am, but I'm still want to make sure that I'm reading it correctly so you can do your own research on this as well, because the sun's about to set. But still, even if I got to cut my light on, I'm going to make sure it shines. But anywho, along with Chamberlain and Gorsleben, Herman argues that true Christianity is Nordic, Aryan, polar. Rosenberg also believes this. Jesus would have been born in Galilee, in the Nordic Atlantean group that arrived there after the disappearance of Atlantis. In Galilee, we find ruins of megalith solar monuments. I didn't know this. Did you guys know this? That in Galilee, Gallee, we find megalithic solar monuments? That is crazy. They're talking about all these megaliths that's popping up now, but they were there back in Jesus' days. They're saying Jesus was Atlantean. For them, Christos represents the other sun behind the sun of this earth, the black sun, that is. And there is a book called The Black Sun. I encourage you guys to PDF it. I do believe it corresponds, or it is the author of this book, The Last Avatar. This is very interesting right now. Once again, for them, Christos represents the other sun behind the sun of this earth, the black sun, that of Lucifer Wotan. Lucifer Wotan, incorporated in the drama of the light of the year as son of the god year, father son, coming to be his light, the truth and the light of earth and man, which must be regenerated. I'm going to read that all over again, but this sounds like there's a whole nother world within the world within the world. Us having these conversations like this and you doing your research is going to have us have access to these worlds. Let's read that again. Along with Chamberlain and Gorsleben, Herman argues that the true Christianity is Nordic, Aryan, polar. Rosenberg also believes this. Jesus would have been born in Galilee, in the Nordic Atlantean group that arrived there after the disappearance of Atlantis. How come we're not having these conversations, people? Now this information is in your hands. What are you going to do with it? Jesus was an Atlantean? Would he been white or would he been mixed? Probably been mixed, which makes sense, because a lot of the Egyptians were mixed. Or was he just plain white? Doesn't matter. Jesus would have been born in Galilee in the Nordic Atlantean group that arrived there after the disappearance of Atlantis. In Galilee, we find ruins of megalithic solar monuments. For them, Christos represents the other sun behind the sun. So for the people of Atlantis, this Nordic group, they know that Jesus was representing not this sun, but there was another sun behind this sun, which is connected to a Lucifer Wotan, spelled W-O-T-A-N. Let's keep on going. This is the solar understanding of the Redskins of America. Are we talking about Indians? This is the solar understanding of the Redskins of America. It is the mystery represented by the Aryan religion of Mithra, corresponding to Christos of Atlantis, the one of my book, The Plum Serpent. Now, I don't think I PDF that book. I'm a PDF downloading type of person. I promise you. Listen, my library has a library that is expecting 10 more libraries, that is probably expecting 20 more after that. That's how many books and PDFs I have, just to let you know. And I want to throw this out here too. This is the great teacher, Dr. Martin Luther King, studied Mithra while he was in college. If Martin Luther King was able to really grow and awaken the mind of the people, he would have gave you stuff like this. I promise you. Dr. Martin Luther King was studying Mithra. He knew about Mithra in college. But just like Christ, the people at his time in the 60s, their consciousness was just getting to a point where it can expand. So he was working his way to getting there with the people, but he had to talk church to him first. Imagine where Martin Luther King would have took us, not just his people, but people of all colors. I'm going to read that part again. Once again, the sun is setting. If you want a part 3, then holla at me on. Holla at me on. Now come on. Got to download that song too. Shout out to Kiss. This is the solar understanding of the Redskins of America. It is the mystery represented by the Aryan religion of Mithras, corresponding to the Christos of Atlantis. And the author says, the one in my book, The Plum Serpent, the Jew, Jesus Christ being a diabolical Jewish creation, a similitude of the demiurge and Jehovah. These are very serious claims that the author is making. The author is saying that the true Christ comes from the Son behind the Son. This kind of reminds me of what I read from Rudolf Steiner, but let's keep on going. Now he is making a claim that the Jew, and then he says the diabolical Jewish creation was fake, and it was created by the demiurge Jehovah. This is what it is saying. I'm going to read all that in its entirety. Along with Chamberlain and Gorsplin, Herman argues that the true Christianity is Nordic, Aryan, polar. Rosenberg also believes this. See, Jesus would have been born in Galilee, in the Nordic Atlantean group that arrived there after the disappearance of Atlantis. In Galilee, we find ruins of megalithic solar monuments. For them, Christos, spelled K-R-I-S-T-O-S, represents the other sun behind the sun of this earth, the black sun, that of Lucifer Wotan. Incorporated into the drama of the light of the year as son of the god year, father son, coming to be his light, the truth and the light of earth and man, which must be regenerated. This is the solar understanding of the Redskins of America. This is the solar understanding of the Redskins of America, which I am thinking they are talking about my Indian family, my Native American family. So if I have some of you, my Hayoki, my Hopi, my Cherokee, all around tribes, please leave comments, because we need to, as a family, address this. This is very serious claims here. Very serious claims here, family. This is the solar understanding of the Redskins of America. It is the mystery represented by the Aryan religion of Mithras, corresponding to the Christos of Atlantis. The author says, the one of my book, The Plum Serpent, the Jew, Jesus Christ being a diabolical Jewish creation and similitude of the demiurge Jehovah. I want to spell that S-I-M-I-L-I-T-U-D-E, of the demiurge Jehovah. The Aryan Christianity is much older than the Jewish Christianism of Paul and Rome. Y'all got some homework to do out there. Everybody in the Cosmic Christ University has some homework to do. These are some serious claims right here. The Arian Christianity, that's spelled with a K now, is much older than the Jewish Christianity of Paul in Rome. They stole and adulterated its solar symbols to destroy and dissolve them in their lunar concept. Herman believed Lutheranism had reorticized Christianism, and that's spelled Christianism. Nateshi and Rosenberg did not think so. Now, the drama of the light of the year, the changing light, corresponds with the coming of a new sun through the solitary, quote, end quote, through the solitary of synchronistic catastrophe, destroying Hyperborea and the Midgard of the Aesir, that's spelled Aesir, together with the disappearance of the ancient sun. So in this way, we can say not only does man involute, losing his divinity, but nature and the earth do also. I want to stop there right quick, guys. And if you liking this, hit the like button. Tell a friend to tune in. Just like part 1, as you can tell, you can hear no racial insults, no racial slurs, no racial put-downs on anybody. We are learning here. The Cosmic Christ University, me as an ordained soon-to-be doctor in metaphysics, this is my job. This is what I do. It is your job as human gods on this planet to research your own work and stop being so brainwashed in television and propaganda and celebrities and in your own ego. Now, once again, it says the Arian Christianity is much older than the Jewish Christianity of Paul in Rome. They stole and adulterated its solar symbols to destroy and dissolve them in their lunar concept. The author says Herman believed Lutheranism had reorthodoxized, and that's Reordicized, Christianism. And it's spelled a little bit different, but it's Christianism. The author says Nateshi and Rosenberg did not think so. Now, the drama of the light of the year, the changing light, corresponds with the coming of a new sun. Through the solidarity of synchronistic or synchrostic catastrophe, destroying Hyperborea and the Midgard of the Aesir together with the disappearance of the ancient sun. Now, I want to stop there. It sounds like to me that through Orthodox religion, now this is just me throwing out my stuff here, through them giving us Orthodox religion, it killed the old primordial ways and the knowledge of the sun behind the sun. And doing so, it took away our spiritual awareness of who we truly were. That's what I'm hearing. If that's what you're hearing, hit the like button. Leave a comment. Yes. And the sun's getting set, but the light from the computer is so bright, I think we're going to be all right. Let's keep on going. Once again, now the drama of the light of the year, the changing light, corresponds with the coming of a new sun. Through the solitary of synchrostic catastrophe, destroying Hyperborea and the Midgard of the Aesir, that's spelled Aesir, together with the disappearance of the ancient sun. So our ancient sun has disappeared. Our ancient sun has disappeared. So in this way, we can say not only does man involute, losing his divinity, but nature and the earth do so also. And Novalis, that's spelled Novalis, and Blake, these are authors I take it, would be right when they say, and I quote, nature is only the lie of the devil. Wow. Wow. Nature is only the lie of the devil, quote, end quote, of course, of the demiurge, the archetype. And like I said before, if you guys never heard of the demiurge, and like the demiurge of the Bible, Jehovah the devil, the Jehovah the bad guy, then you would have to first look up the Gnostics. Then you would have to first look up all the Gnostic ancient ones. then you will have to go to read some of my, or look at some of my old videos where I'm talking about the demiurge and talking about the Gnostics, the non-canonical Gospels, and the Nag Hammadi. Let's keep on. So let's read that again. It says, nature is only the lie of the devil, quote, end quote, of the demiurge, the one, the archetype. We may also think nature, the earth, had lost their paradisia, and that's spelled Paradesha, and this is a similar situation in solidarity, with the hero or mixed semi-divine Vera, a state of transit indecision, contemplating, feeling these cyclic manifestations, loving them, the hero, the watcher of the dawn, pilgrim of the morning star, discovers within this earth the same hidden nostalgia for a lost world, the same desperate spiritual passion for resurrection and immortality, even in the smallest blade of grass, in the tiniest being trailing in the dust, as in the most brilliant stars of the firmament, all equally belonging to this earth, to the situation, as if nature, including the entire visible cosmos, was also a prisoner. Poetry at its best, don't you think? I'll read that again, but I'm still going to read it poetic. We may also think nature, the earth, have lost their paradisia, Paradesh, and this is similar situation in solidarity with the hero or mixed semi-divine Vira, and that's Vira. To be actually honest with you, we all mixed divine people. We are gods with mixed blood. Let's keep on reading. A state of transit, and that was me saying that part, by the way. A state of transit indecision, contemplating, feeling these cyclic manifestations, loving them, the hero, the watcher of the dawn, pilgrim of the morning star, discovers within the earth the same hidden nostalgia for a lost world. The same desperate spiritual passion for resurrection and immortality, even in the smallest blade of grass, in the tiniest being trailing in the dust, as in the most brilliant stars of the firmament, all equally belonging to this earth, to the situation, as if nature, including the entire visible cosmos, were also a prisoner. We should not be surprised that Professor Herman attributed the direction of the primordial religion of the white race, including his Nordic Atlantean Christianity, to the priestess white mothers. Now, I did a presentation many years ago, and it was talking about the arrival of people to Africa after Atlantis, and the tribal Hottentots and certain ones who were witnessing a white goddess. And this had me question, maybe was this the true creation for Yakub and the white race? But there is so much to unreveal there. But in Atlantis, there was a white goddess. Now, if I can, I want to see, because I did save this. Let me see where it's at. It might be on Google. Did I save this? Yes. No, I didn't. Well, let me see if I got this here. I'm not going to hold too much time. I'm going to get back to the presentation. Here we go. Remember I was telling you about Hyperborea, and I was telling you about this ancient place. This is where I guess you call it a painter, but this is what he visualized as Hyperborea. Look at this. And Atlantis. Look at this. Now, for those who know, yes, as far as the melanated people, it is known that we are one of the original ones, and our story goes way back. But we are talking about the ones who came after Lemuria. This is what they said Hyperborea and the beginnings of Atlantis looked like, guys. And what do you see there if we zoom in? This white type of god or goddess. So this goes really deep into the psyche of certain people. I hope you guys can see that in its entirety too. Like I said, we're about to end this soon because it's about to get dark. And I think the laptop for its light, and shoot, if the light lasts like this, we'll just keep on going. But I wanted to show you guys the picture of what they said Hyperborea looked like. And I hope you've seen that real well. All right, here we go. Let's read that part again. We should not be surprised, the author says, on how Professor Herman attributed the direction of the primordial religion of the white race. So he's saying the stuff that we was reading previously, we should not be surprised how Herman broke it down the way he just broke it down for us earlier. We should not be surprised how Professor Herman attributed the direction of the primordial religion of the white race, including his Nordic Atlantean Christianity, to the priestess' white mothers. That is the religion of the changing light reincarnation, the revelation of the yuga of descent and the loss of Hyperborean with the shifting of the earth axis, the religion of the new sun when the giants and ancient gods has been submerged within mountains and the inner hollow earth, or had gone on to the world on the other side of the mirror, the other side of the senses when the river of death had overflowed the earth. Damn it, man. See, Atlantis had a white goddess, but that white goddess was an image of a more primordial goddess with melanin as well. So as above, so below. So I want to read that again. The religion of the new sun where the giants and the ancient gods had been submerged within mountains. And think about sometimes when we see on TikTok or we see on YouTube, we see mountains that look like faces. And these faces look damn near real. Well, the author is saying that they are real. They were submerged in the mountains. Well, damn. Let's read that again. The religion of the new sun when the giants and the ancient gods has been submerged within mountains in the inner hollow earth, or had gone onto the world on the other side of the mirror. What is the other side of the mirror? We hear a lot of talk about Antarctica now, aren't we? And I have a book called Agartha that I did a presentation on. And now with everybody talking about Antarctica and everybody talking about Atlantis. Everybody talking about Antarctica and aliens now. I'm going to start giving you guys books because I think it's unfair to a lot of people who are still playing the guessing games, or are they from the ocean? Are they from here? We had knowledge of so-called aliens for so long that people don't read no more. People say we don't need to read. You know, Fahrenheit 451 had you burning books. You have certain celebrities say they don't read, so what's the point? And that's where we lose at. Or that's where you guys lose at. So let me read this again. And like I said, the sun's going down. So like I said, I gave you an hour last time. I'm going to give you an hour this time. And I thank you guys for watching. We should not be surprised, the author says once again, on Herman's attributed we should not be surprised on how Herman attributed the direction of the primordial religion of the white race, including his Nordic Atlantean Christianity, to the priestess' white mothers. That is the religion of the changing light, reincarnation, the revelation of the yuga. Remember, they said that we're in the age of the golden age or a coming golden age, which is associated with Kali Yuga. The revelation of the yuga of descent and the loss of Hyperborea with the shifting of the earth's axis. AXIX. The religion of the new sun where the giants and ancient gods had been submerged within mountains and the hollow earth, or had gone into the world on the other side of the mirror, the other side of the senses when the river of death had overflowed the earth. Now I'm trying to continue on, but when I hear things like this, we need to, as a people, fight for the truth. Stop being lazy, mentally and spiritually. There was a primordial world that we lost when the earth shifted, the axis shifted. There was ancient ones that we have no knowledge of, some little bit knowledge of, but not enough. We need more. We need to get together as a people. If Donald J. Trump is the revolutionary that he says and his people say he is, then we have a man in there that will answer some of these questions, or at least get answers for that. So if Donald J. Trump people are watching, whether his sons are watching, pay attention to the minister. I am here. I'm not going nowhere. I am a cosmic Christ being. I am here by the divine Christ that is within here, as well the cosmic. And my ancestry goes beyond Pluto, so you have to understand that there is no shutting me out, shutting me up, or shutting me off. Because if you kill this body, there is million more that will come after me. There will be million of more like me who will come after me, stronger, better, fierce, powerful, divine. So work with me, not against me. Because there once existed another light, an unchanging light, the ancient black sun, polar, through which it is possible to leap out, to jump into the non-existent flower of the green thunderbolt. And this black sun is none other than the gate of Venus. The gate of Venus. You hear a lot of people on TikTok talk about Thor Valiant now, or Valiant Thor. Valiant Thor was what seemed like a white man who claimed to come for Venus, and he was working with the government for probably a few months before that him and the government came to a disagreement about nuclear weapons. And man, listen, Valiant Thor said, if you guys drop the weapons, man, we can have peace on this planet. We can have divineness on this planet. Even though they was rocking with Valiant Thor, they said, no, we can't do that right now. We can't. And then after Valiant Thor, there were some more beings, alien beings, who said, listen, we're going to work with you. You give us some bodies. You let us do some experiments on your people. We give you some technology. And we good. You know what I mean? Because there were once existed another light, an unchanging light, the ancient black sun, polar, through which it's possible to leap out, to jump into the non-existent flower of the green thunderbolt. And this black sun is none other than the gate of Venus. It is Lucifer, the true guide of the return to Hyperborea, at the other extreme opposite the Christ of the changing light of the new sun of death and dissolution. That is the convention of the Hyperborean Aryans, the faith of esoteric Hitlerism. If you are a fan, I said this in part 1. If you are a fan of Hitler, or if you are a stan of Hitler, if you are op of Hitler, if you can't stand, no pun intended, if you can't stand Hitler, it doesn't matter. You all should Google and research esoteric Hitlerism. And let me see if I can find this part again. Remember, Hitler said this: if I win the war, I will have given a mortal blow to the Jew. If I lose the war, their triumph will only be for a brief time. Hitler lost a battle, not a war. I wonder, not really, I wonder, wink, wink, not really, if Donald Trump knew this about Hitler. We have Elon Musk with Donald Trump. If I know this, if I am giving you this information, you don't think they know this information about Hitler? About other worlds? And if they don't know it, the so-called shadow government that you people speak of, you don't think they know it? I'm simply telling you guys, if you would really stand up for each other, like what you did into the Congress in January 6th, into certain places, like the Vatican, say, for example, you will find a lot more. This is not me encouraging anybody to do anything, by the way. This is not me encouraging anybody to do anything, by the way. I am simply saying, if you people out there had the same energy that you had going upon the Congress to go into the Vatican and ask or demand answers, then we would have a lot more done spiritually, is all I'm saying. So I'm going to end this soon because we're almost at an hour, but I want to give you guys something to think about. With Donald J. Trump being president once again in the start of 2025. I'm giving everybody a chance to unite. Let me go ahead and end this out. And I thank you guys once again for watching me, for being tuned to the Cosmic Christ University, which is here for you and is always going to be here for you. Because there once existed another light, family, an unchanging light, the ancient black sun, polar, through which it is possible to leap out, to jump into the non-existent flower of the green thunderbolt, and this black sun is none other than the gate of Venus. It is Lucifer, the true guide of the return to Hyperborea. At the other extreme, opposite, the Christ of the changing light of the new sun, of death and dissolution. That is the conviction of the Hyperborean Aryans, the faith of the esoteric Hitlerism, the way of the warriors of Wotan and Führer, that is spelled Fuhrer. That is the name that they give Hitler. I'm going to continue where it says, a path backwards retrograde transmutation of Vira, Vira, into Divya, or Diva, Divya, and the simultaneously transfiguration of the earth. So there is no reincarnation but resurrection, holy war, leap, escape. The Swarovski, the one that Hitler used, the one that people always attribute with evil when they see it, the Swarovski, which means so much more, has so much greater symbolism. Anyway, the Swarovski, symbolizing the loss of Hyperborea together with the cross within a circle, is the rightwards that of Rama, the guide of the great Exodus. Rama, the god of the great Exodus. It is the Swarovski of Tibet, after it says Bo, with some dots on top of the O. The emblem of return to Hyperborea, to the ancient immobile light of spirit, is the leftwards Swarovski, swirling against the time rotation of the actual earth, devourer of time, like Saturno. It is the Swarovski of the Satya Yuga, that of esoteric Hitlerism, which at the end of the cycle, or at the end of a cycle, will firm the earth's axis, will immortalize the earth, immortalizing us. And I think I'm going to leave it here. So, let me know what you think of part 2. A lot was said. A lot of information for you to research and digest and analyze. But like I said, at the end of the day, we are all one. We all come from the one source. Understand that. It's not about race no more. Never really was. It's about unity. It's about knowing who you are, standing on your power. Treat others like you want to be treated. Love is the law in this land and other planets as well. So do right by God by doing right by yourself and others. That's the law. Peace.